So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you all for joining this live. Thank you for sharing. Those of you who've already shared the live, I've seen it shared a couple times. Thank you so much, Sarah. Good afternoon. Hope you are doing very well. Good afternoon, Antoinette Clark. How are you? Yes, I am doing pretty good. Sarah, like so many people would like to know about the grants, especially the income grants. Listen, I mean, I know that some of this, I know that it may seem like a lot of what I say is political, but to be honest, I don't know anyone who's actually gotten a grant. I don't know anyone whose rent has been paid. I don't know anyone who's actually gotten a grant. I know people who've gotten food cards from the ministers and from the THA, but um, yeah, it is what it is. So, hi, Shelly, and yes, I know I miss you guys too. Oh gosh, I miss you all too. Okay, so I don't plan to be long today. I don't plan to be long today, but and I wasn't even planning to do a Facebook Live today, Honestly, I was not even planning to do a live today. But I listened to the press conference that the THA had. They've been doing them every month, every week. We were all waiting patiently on Friday, and it didn't happen on Friday. So it happened today. So I came and I listened to them today, and I'm thinking, gosh, all of this is just so confusing. So I said, let me jump on real quick to do a live real quick, just to talk about some of the things that they said and some of the things that in my mind makes absolutely no sense. So I just want to share them with you one time. Excuse me. So we're going to speak specifically about Tobago-specific COVID-19 related data and how important data is, particularly if you saw my live on last week on Thursday or Friday. I can't remember what day. If you saw my live then, you would have heard me talk about the fact that we were about to open. I mean, if you were just looking at the press conferences in Trinidad, you would see, well, the numbers that they're getting, we're about to reopen. We're about to not reopen as in open up our borders just yet, but we are about to lift restrictions. I think that's a better term, lift restrictions. And that's exactly what the Prime Minister announced on Saturday, that by today, Monday, we would begin to lift restrictions and that we would do it in a way that makes sense. And for a lot of what he said, it does make sense. I agree, and so forth, because Trinidad is using data. Now, I was very, very happy today. Maybe one of the few things that I have agreed with our Secretary for Health, Wellness and Family Development. During the course of the press conference today, she did mention um, data and using data. But so I'm going to let you listen for yourself what she said today. And it was probably one of the few times that I have agreed with her um, because of what was said. So tune in and listen to this. Well, let me start back. Okay.
And then in addition to what Dr. Mitchell has said, the the phased reopening of Trinidad and Tobago is based on data. And that is what is driving the process at this time, driving the process in the Tobago scenario and driving the process in the Trinidad scenario. And so at this point in time, in Tobago, we have no suspected cases, and for some time now, we have not had any confirmed cases. And from the information that I've seen, it is the same with Trinidad as well. But if over the next few days, the next few weeks, we have cases coming forward, then we may have to revert to the situation where we had originally. And so as
Okay. So You heard it for yourself. She was really excited about the, well, she wasn't really excited, but she said that um, the reopening of Trinidad and Tobago is based on data. The reopening of Trinidad is based on data. The reopening of Tobago is based on data, and because of that, that is how decisions are made. And when I heard that, I was so happy. I was like, yes, yes, that is how it should be done. Because that is what I have been advocating for all this time, that we use data, that we use evidence to make our decisions, and that we don't just make our decisions on the fly, that we don't just make decisions just because of whatever, but so that we make our decisions based on data, based on the available data, and based on what we know makes sense. Okay, so let me just play for you a little bit, just in case you missed the press conference this morning. I know I may be the only person, and some of our media people, I may be the only person still listening to these press conferences every morning, but I do it because I have to, and I am doing it because I need to also bring the information to you. So let you listen to what the CMO said this morning, and that would give you sort of a general overview of where we are. So when you hear Mrs. Davidson Celestine speak about the fact that we seem to have no new cases and that kind of thing, this is what the CMO in Trinidad said this morning at 10 a.m. This morning at 10 a.m. or shortly after 10. This is what he said.
Honorable Ministers, members of the viewing and listening public. The clinical update for today, Monday, the 11th, 2020 is as follows. Samples submitted to the UE as well as CAFA labs, 2,312. Repeat tests thus far, 341. Tests for unique persons, 1,971. Positive tests remain at 116. The number of deaths remain at 8. Hospitalized patients stand at 1 at the Cuba facility. Within the Penal Debe UE facility, there are 70 persons who remain in quarantine for a further few days. And at the Napa and Port of Spain, there are 23 healthcare workers presently quarantined. In terms of community samples, we stand as of the 9th of May, which was Saturday, 687 community samples completed thus far. All of them were negative. I just want to take the opportunity to clear up one.
So let me stop there. And I want you to remember the last thing that he just said. That as of Saturday, which was May the 9th, I think, there were 687 samples of, and they were all negative. So let me explain that a little bit, just for those who may not understand what they were talking about. So from the beginning, we were using very strict testing requirements. So you needed to have flu and cold-like symptoms. You needed to have traveled to come into Trinidad and Tobago. And you needed to have been in contact with somebody who has COVID-19. So those were the requirements to get tested in the beginning. For several weeks, I pushed for us to test more people. And they finally said within the last 2 weeks or so that they've opened it up to do surveillance testing. And when they say surveillance testing, what they mean is people with flu-like symptoms who come to the health facilities, whether you've traveled or not, whether you've been in contact with anybody who has COVID-19 or not, they would ask you, do you want to be a part of a larger study, in essence, that we're doing to see whether we have COVID-19 running around in the community and whether we have other things. There's H1N1, there are all of these other things that are out there that we need to test for. So in Trinidad and Tobago, since they started this process maybe a week, 2 weeks ago, they've done, and let me get the number, 687 samples. And they have all been negative. Now, this is where the discussion comes in. These daily press conferences are COVID-19 related press conferences, right? They are specifically to treat with COVID-19. Because they are specifically to treat with COVID-19, it means that everything they say has to have some link to COVID-19. They've said it before, and it is implied that, for example, the 687 community samples, which came from various health centers and community health centers throughout Trinidad and Tobago that are negative. We are only to assume that we're saying negative for COVID-19 because these are COVID-19 press conferences, right? There is absolutely no reason to tell us they are negative for HIV or negative for H1N1 in these COVID-19 press conferences. Okay, so let us get that very, very clear. Unless they are hoodwinking us, unless they are, that is what is happening. So when you listen to the numbers and when you think about it, we are talking about close to 2,000 people in Trinidad and Tobago who've been tested for COVID-19, and within the last 2 weeks, in essence, we have not really had a positive test. Okay, now coming from a data-driven perspective, having tested 600 and something people, I would say it is okay-ish to start opening up, to start easing some of the restrictions, because we have not had a positive test in a while. Okay, so my question has been, I am hoping that those numbers reflect Tobago. I am hoping that those numbers reflect Tobago. And I was hoping that today they would give more information about specifically. So we could now say that of the 687 tests that were done, and they're all negative, 30 of them, 50 of them, whatever number came from Tobago, because that would be the only justification for us to open Trinidad and Tobago, because we are sure about what is happening on the island. Now, I would play for you a series of clips from today, because I specifically went, they may not be in order, but I specifically went and pulled them out so that you hear for yourself what is happening in Tobago and why I am now concerned and why I felt the need to, instead of go and enjoy my afternoon, come on Facebook to have this discussion about what's happening. So let me play for you this. Let me pull it back a little bit. Just make sure we are looking at the right thing. Yes, here we go. So I am going to play for you a part of the presentation today of the primary care manager. That's a title. Primary care manager in Tobago, in the TRH.
With that in mind, the primary care services, as it has done in the past, will continue to conduct swabbing of the population. We have a national mandate to increase the number of swabbings within the community so that we can detect these other flu-like illnesses, which will guide our responses going forward. And we are asking clients to bear with us and to cooperate with us. We are not necessarily swabbing for COVID. Persons who will require swabbing for COVID will be asked to go to the Accident and Emergency Department, where we have the tents on the outside. We are, however, within primary care.
Let me just pull that back a little bit for you to hear what she said. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Accident and Emergency Department, where we have the COVID persons who will guide our responses going forward. And we are asking clients to bear with us and to cooperate with us. We are not necessarily swabbing for COVID. Persons who will require swabbing for COVID will be asked to go to the Accident and Emergency Department, where we have the tents on the outside. We are, however, within primary care services, going to be swabbing for other flu-like illnesses. So once you present to one of our walk-in centers, or to any of the other clinics and you present with walk-in symptoms, we are going to ask our doctors and nurses to ensure that you are swabbed so that we know what other illnesses are out there, viral illnesses that is, that are out there.
Now you'll see why I had to come online now, because I thought, and maybe I understood, maybe I missed the memo, maybe I am thinking about this too much. I thought that when we were doing the surveillance testing, even if we were testing for other infections, other flus, other whatever, the primary reason for doing it now was to ensure that we do not have COVID-19 spread throughout the community. That is what I thought was happening. And if I am not mistaken, I think that is what is happening in Trinidad. But it seems that that is not what's happening in Tobago, because you, if you present with flu-like symptoms, you kind of get swabbed, but that swab is not for COVID-19. And as she said, the only place you can get swabbed for COVID-19 specifically is at the hospital. So if you have been swabbed, if you have flu-like symptoms anywhere, and you go to the, the Scarborough, to the Bacalet Health Center, Roxborough, or Canaan, and they swab you, that is not for COVID-19. That is for everything else, to see what else is happening, which is important. Sure, we need to see what else is happening in the air. We need to know what else people are getting sick with. But the pandemic that is in front of us right now is COVID-19. And the point of doing the surveillance, the community surveillance, is to ensure that we do not have COVID-19 running around in the community. And having tested a decent portion of the population, we can then say with confidence, we have controlled the spread in Tobago, in Trinidad and Tobago, which is why we can now lift our restrictions. I listened to this press conference today and was pulling my hair out, because it made, what they are saying makes no sense whatsoever. Shelley, yes, these people are mad. The whole point in my mind of the community testing is to ensure we don't have COVID-19 running around in Tobago, in Trinidad and Tobago. So the 687 samples that were taken and are negative that the CMO spoke about, well, up to Saturday, because he said that data was up to Saturday. How many of those are from Tobago? Is it that how any of those are from Tobago? So let me play another part. That let me see if I could pull that up. Let me find that clip. No, there's several clips, huh? Several clips. Let me see if I could pull that one up and play that one for you to hear what else is happening.
Like Dr. Mitchell, I would also indicate that our last press conference, we would have begun the process of community surveillance in order to obtain a better picture as it relates to what is happening within the communities throughout Tobago. I have been advised that testing will be done in three parts. One, we will test persons in communities, and that is what Dr. Mitchell alluded to, utilizing the health centers to test as many persons as is possible. We will also be testing at the hospital as well, at the A&E, and also testing through active case findings and detection. We have information through our hotline rather. Some persons may, be experiencing some kind or some level of illnesses, and our staff at the public health department will go out to check on those persons to get a better understanding of what the situation is. There will be 3 testing sites, and those testing sites will be spread across the island because we want to ensure that we have a very wide representation as much as is possible. And as I would have indicated, we are attempting to obtain information not only on not only on COVID, but other respiratory diseases as well. And so we are looking at different signs and symptoms rather, respiratory challenges, undifferentiated fever, or persons who may show signs of acute viral illnesses, to name a few. I have also been advised by the team that the process for testing is relatively quick, it is relatively easy and simple, and therefore there is no need to be fearful. I know a number of persons would have called in with concerns, and I want to use this opportunity to allay those fears and to indicate to you that the process is a relatively simple one. So, therefore, if you have any signs and symptoms, please come forward for testing, because what we are attempting to do would and can eventually save your lives going forward. So, please call our established hotlines and get tested as quickly as is possible. Apart from that, we have submitted samples to CAFA, and our numbers keep growing steadily. To date, we have tested 149 persons, and over the next week, as I would have indicated, we expect that number to grow because we will be ramping up testing at the health centers and at the hospital as well. And as I indicated as well, our machine should be installed by this week so that we can have further testing as early as from next week. Again, our number of samples testing positive, it stands at 5, and number of samples testing negative stands at 93 to date. So we continue the process of testing. We try as much as possible to ensure that
Yo, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She said that the number so far for Tobago is 149. Today is the 11th of May, and the number of samples tested for Tobago so far is 149. The last press release that they sent out was on the 4th of May. 4th of May. And the number of samples on that was 141. So between the 4th of May and the 11th of May, we went from 141 samples tested to 149 samples tested. So that's 8 samples in Tobago. 8 samples in Tobago that have been tested for the last week or so. And sure, great. They're all negative. Wonderful. So are we to assume that of the 687, that the Tobago number out of that is 8? I'm not sure. I am not sure. I am not sure. And listen, I don't know. I don't know. I remember last week or the last time they spoke about ramping up the testing. Remember when I showed the video last week or the week before about Mrs. Davidson Celestine, the Secretary for Health, Wellness and Family Development, talking about how any and everybody could get tested, and the testing was available, and we're going to do the community testing, and all of that, 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 and we now have 149 samples. So that is what, 8 since the 4th of May. Shelley, thanks for getting the information. Yeah, that's that's part of. I am absolutely, like, listen, I do I you all know I am not usually lost for words. This is level madness. What is going on? What is going on? And you know what? I think you're right, Oscar. They don't believe that people are listening. They don't think that people are listening. So they don't. It's like, when I I don't know. This is, but the sad thing about all of this is, remember when I said it last week, Trinidad is going to go ahead and open up and lift the restrictions and so forth based on the numbers that they have, and for the numbers they have, it makes sense for them to open. I mean, granted, I think we should be testing thousands more people, but still, it still shows it still shows that they have negative numbers. So, something else that was said in the press conference today, and I don't know that I have I don't know that I have the footage of that part specifically, but they did say that within the community testing, they had sent 33 samples and got back only 3 results. And I was also confused because at first I thought that that meant 33 samples for COVID. And if that was 33 COVID samples, great, wonderful, at least we're getting somewhere. But we only got back 3 results so far. Now, one of the members of the media was as confused as I was, I think, about that question, and asked about it. So listen to the question. I hope this is the clip. Listen to the question that Mr. Turner asked, and listen to the response that he got. I hope this is it. I pulled so many pieces of footage today.
All right, Mr. Turner, with regard to the number of tests to date, keep in mind that all the regional health authorities have been asked to step up with regard to the number of swabs that they take per day. The tests are not currently being done at CARPA with regard to our community surveillance. They are being done at North Central Regional Health Authority. The sheer volume of tests, because we're not specifically testing for COVID, the sheer volume of tests would result in a delay in results coming back. But the results are in fact pending, and as soon as we um, get the results, we will update you accordingly. With regard to COVID testing, when we do swab for COVID, those tests do in fact go to CAFA. And once we have a positive result, the results are called back to us so that there isn't a delay really with regard to the COVID type swabbing and testing that we do. The other tests, like I said, the community surveillance, we are testing for a number of viruses that are out there in the community. That will take a while. And again, the sheer volume of tests would result in a delay, so to speak, in terms of the return of results. But we are expecting the other results very shortly.
Well, yeah, I mean, I am laughing. I am laughing because I refuse to cry. I am laughing because I absolutely refuse to cry about this situation. Did you realize what Dr. What she said? You all just realized what she said. She basically said that because we have such large volumes of testing that's happening now, because we have such large volumes, and it's not all going to CAFA, it's all going to wherever she said, I can't even remember. That in essence, she was making an excuse for the delay. So even if we have 33 samples and we're not quite sure what those 33 samples are for, whether they are COVID or COVID plus other things, even though we have 33 samples, we only got back results for 3. Even though we have 33 samples of whatever those samples are, because we're still not even sure exactly what those samples were. We only have results for 3. Now, thank God the 3 are all negative, and I assume we are talking about COVID. But if you listen to the entire press conference, we're not sure. We're not sure whether we're talking COVID specifically or whether they're talking about other infections. So 687 community tests done in Trinidad, all negative. 33 samples taken in Tobago. We're not quite sure whether it's 33 COVID test samples to be tested for COVID or not. Not 100% sure just yet. We got 3 results back. Thank God they're negative. 3. So we are basing our reopening on the results of 3. Am I overreacting? Am I the one who is blowing things out of proportion? Am I the one who am I the only atheist who doesn't believe that God is a Trinity? Is it just me? What is happening? What is happening? And remember, a month ago, an entire month ago, I wrote an article, and you could go search it. I was trying to bring it up so that you could see it here. Go just search when not now really means no, because a month ago, I spoke about the fact that we should have gotten our testing machine, and then they said, no, we're not ready for it yet. And because of that, we are yet to get it. Because of that, a whole month later, that whole long Nancy story that we just heard about all of the samples going to one site, and that is why we now have delays and whatnot. If a month ago we had taken the PCR machine that was available for us, a month ago, we would not have to worry about sending our samples to Trinidad and the samples taking long to come back, and sending 33 samples and only getting 3 results back. We won't have to worry about that. As a matter of fact, we now have to ask ourselves, on the 4th of May, when we said we had 141 samples, how long ago were those samples sent? Or when we say today that we had 149 samples, how long ago were those samples sent? Were those samples sent this week, last week, the week before? Are we working on data that is 2 or 3 weeks behind time? Is that what we're doing? Is that how we are deciding on what policies we are going to use in Tobago? And as I said, I don't mind if Trinidad uses Trinidad-specific data and makes an informed decision based on that data. But I have a serious problem if Tobago is using delayed data or no data and making decisions that can potentially cause all of us to be at unnecessary risk. I would allow you to also now hear the end part. I think the end part of this refers to whether the old hospital is prepared.
The old hospital is very ready in terms of the structure. It was handed over to us from UDCOT, I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken. And we have been ranking our facilities in terms of the level of readiness, and that would have emerged number 1 and will be the place that we can immediately hold persons who have since tested, who would have tested positive with COVID going forward. So that is very ready. It's a very beautiful space, and we have the equipment that will be needed to outfit that facility on short order. And so we are working to create a kind of infectious disease facility there to assist us with treating with COVID going forward. Hence the reason why I continue to mention the old hospital at the fort. With regards to the question on obstetrics, I think it was, and gynecology.
I feel I need to pull it back a little bit for you to, because she said it is immediately ready. And then when you listen a little longer, we are talking about bringing equipment and getting ready. You all realize it. So on one, the first part of the sentence, you speak about grading facilities in terms of readiness, and we are immediately ready. And then you now talk about getting ready. I would like to know, and I hope some member of the media is looking at this, ask specifically, if we have a COVID-19 patient right this second, because that is the only, when you say immediately ready, I expect that if, God forbid, we have a COVID-19 patient tonight, you can take them to the old hospital. That double talk, and there are other parts of the press conference that I did not pull because it was just so much of it, that showed that even though she makes it look as if that space is ready immediately, it is not ready tonight. Immediately means now. If we have a patient now that needs to be there, it is not ready, because they still have to go and do all sorts of stuff to bring it up to being ready. Lord have mercy on all of us. If you were not speaking, we wouldn't even have a press conference. You're probably right about that, eh? You are probably right about that. And remember, And I'm going to wrap up soon because I'm afraid if I keep thinking and keep talking about it, I might cuss. And, those of you who don't know that others cuss would may be surprised. But remember last week when I spoke about us getting ready, we had to do two things. We have to do testing now to make sure that we don't have community spread. And when we recognize that we don't have community spread, then we could say lift restrictions. But for us to lift restrictions, we have to be careful and conscious of the fact that lifting restrictions means that we will get an increase in cases. It's happening all over the world. But we have to ensure that our health system is so prepared so that even if we have a little spike, it's okay. We can take care of those people. I am not convinced that from this talk today, that if we get 5 cases by the weekend, I am not convinced we're ready for that. I am not convinced at all that we'll be ready for that. And there was another part of the press conference where they asked about the fact, a reporter asked about, the fact that there seems to be, remember we were speaking about the idea of a tent hospital that we could put up really quickly and so forth, because that is what they were doing in the US. And they said, yes, it's coming in 2 weeks. It's coming. Of course, it's not here. Well, I don't know if it's here, but they didn't mention anything about that today. If it were here, I am sure they would have said it was here. And these are the kinds of things we are dealing with. Tobago, I would play for you one more time the first footage of Mrs. Davidson Celestine from today. First thing that she said, which is why for probably the very first time, I agreed with her. And then after listening to her, after listening to everything else that was said, you recognize that that is a perfect example of them just talking, them just saying what they had to say, and it is based on nothing. It is based on nothing real. It is based on, it's like they're just talking. So let me just let you hear this one part again. And you tell me whether what she said today is really what they're doing, given everything else that we heard today in Trinidad and in Tobago. You tell me.
We have cases coming forward, then we may have to revert to the situation where we had originally. And so, as Dr. Mitchell would have indicated, we have to follow the rules and regulations. This is a new norm for all of us, and we here in Tobago, as well as Trinidad, would ensure that we try to do random testing within the communities as much as is possible so that we can also have a better picture of what is going on out there in our respective communities. So all of
It is the same with Trinidad, but we don't know if that is really the same for Tobago. Because as I said, we were at 141 samples submitted. And that's another thing, eh? We're not even sure if the 141 samples, if all of them were tested. Because I remember sometime before where somebody asked a question and they let us know that about 30 samples were rejected. So even that 141, I'm not even sure that that is tested. That may have been sampled and sent. I'm not sure. We need to be careful about that too. But between May 4th, 141, May 11th today, 149, 33 samples being sent, and we only have the results from 3 of those samples. Tobago, you have to really, really ask yourselves, are we really basing our reopening on data? Are we really making an informed decision when we in Tobago say, okay, let us lift these restrictions and go back to some level of normalcy? Is the Tobago House of Assembly fulfilling its responsibilities to take care of the people of Tobago who voted for them? Are they, or are they playing with our lives? Because that kind of data, that kind of missing data, you cannot make an informed decision with that kind of missing data. It makes absolutely no sense, and we have to recognize it when we see it. We have to recognize BS when we see it, and we have to call it out. Okay, guys, so that's it. And I am going to be like Oscar and say, thank God we didn't really get a huge outbreak, because I am not sure we would have been able to recover. I am not sure we would have been able to withstand it. And I continue to, to have somewhere deep within me this genuine belief that God had to be a Trini, God had to be a Tobagonian, because we are just that lucky. We are just that blessed. And I am thankful. I am thankful. But we shouldn't be playing these games. We shouldn't be doing this kind of double talk. We should not be doing what we are doing now, because this is too risky. This is too risky, and it is not what our leaders should be doing. And yes, I would end, you're right, Emlyn. The language that is used in these press conferences is in future tense. It is as if we are waiting for COVID to arrive. And I remember saying that recently too. Why are they behaving as if we are not here yet? Why are they behaving? It is coming, it's coming, it's coming. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Oh, by the way, there's another clip where they spoke about having the PCR machine, the one that should have been here a month and a half ago. Apparently it's coming this week. So, I'm not holding my breath. When it gets here, I'll be very happy when it does, but that is a month and a half later than it could have been. Anyway, guys, thank you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing. Please share the live again for those who may have missed it. Please let us know how how are you. My next live, I think I'll do something a little less, yeah. But thank you all again. Thank you so much, and have a blessed day. Remember, be safe out there. Thank you, Jennifer. Be safe. You continue being safe, continue social distancing, especially if you're in Tobago, because we're not quite sure what's happening. We're not quite sure what's happening here. All right. Thank you all so much. Have a blessed evening. Bye.